And welcome to Real Talk live stream. I've got a very special guest in the house, first time, very first time. So I've got to say thank you to everybody for viewing and watching, and please help me share it out today. I didn't get on some technicalities with equipment, so if you guys can share it out with everybody, that would be great. But I want Elizabeth to take a minute and introduce yourself.
All right, I'm Elizabeth Walker. I'm a crime scene tech 2 here at Northport Police Department. I work with 2 other crime scene techs currently. Been with the agency for almost 11 years. August 3rd, it'll be my 11th year anniversary. Been in crime scene for about 7.5 years.
Wow. So 11.5 years. What have you seen over 11.5 years? Let's start like small and we'll work big. How has the unit grown over 11.5 years?
The unit itself has changed. It's always been about the same size. We've had employees coming and going. So for the majority of my time here, I've always had either 1 or 2 other people in the unit with me. We are currently in the hiring process for a 4th technician, so we are growing. Obviously, with the city growth, we've been busier, so there has been found to be a need for that 4th person. We're always on call. One of us is always on call, so
what's week?
The frequency of our on call also is a big deal for crime scene technicians. So having more people in the unit is helpful with that.
It makes it, you've got a hefty job. First off, nobody wants to see the crime scene unit thrive for anything. What's your guys' outreach program as far as getting your information out? This is the first time I've interviewed you guys, so I think you're kind of the behind the scenes crime scene, so to speak.
We are very behind the scenes. We kind of have that introvert personality. All of us are very similar. We like the behind the scenes stuff. We like the methodical science side of the investigation. So we do get out with outreach and stuff. So a lot of times it's the summer camps with the Mullen Center here in the city of Northport. We've done a few times with that. I've done presentations at high school for the kids, like looking to go into the career. Done that a couple times. Also at Charlotte Technical College, they have a forensic class that I did a presentation for. Also the CPSA, that program that just ended, the Citizens Public Safety Academy, that the and FD put on annually. Did a presentation for them. So that's, just getting the knowledge out there of what we do. It's a competitive job. It's a lot of people want to do it. That's for sure.
When you say a lot of people want to do it, they want to do the behind the scenes stuff?
They want to be crime scene technicians. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. We had a lot of applications the last couple hiring processes that we've had. And it's competitive. So the education, whenever we're talking to high school kids and things, they'll ask, like what we recommend for education and that sort of thing. We always recommend having bachelor's degree at minimum, having something in the sciences or forensic related degree programs. And also very important is to have some kind of internship while you're in college to actually, with a crime scene unit if possible, to be able to actually see what we do on a day-to-day basis. Because I think some people have maybe a misperception of the job because of TV programs. And then once they actually see what happens in a crime scene unit, they're kind of like, maybe I don't want to do this.
Do you, as far as the like CSI I'm sure there was a big explosion when CSI came on. Kind of exploited the career field, didn't it?
I think so. Yeah. I think that provided a lot of interest to people wanting to do the job, but it's definitely not as glorified as what's on TV. We do some really gross stuff. It's a hard job. It's out in the heat, hours on scenes, sometimes days on scenes. You're in the middle of a violent, bloody mess for hours on end.
Well, that's I saw the picture of you guys down in the water.
Yeah.
You sent that over. What was happening there? Was that a practice, or were you actually retrieving something?
No, that was an actual scene thing. It was a couple years ago. It was in August, probably one of the hottest days of the year, and it was alleged that a gun had been thrown into that waterway, and so of course the dive team was out there doing the water search, but then I was up on land with the metal detector going through a whole large area of brush and ending up having to clear it all. Yeah, that was a very hot day.
You describe these things throughout the different crime scenes and the mess and what you guys have to deal with. What's the messiest one you've had to deal with? Without like going crazy there, but because I know you probably have a story or two in your head.
Yeah, I mean, just general terms, probably a decomp case would probably be one of the grossest. There's a lot that happens to the human body after death, and in Florida, in the heat and humidity, it's not pretty. Between the sights and the smells of that, it's gross.
And probably over time, what's the longest how do you say it, decomposed body that you found when you guys analyze it? Do you have a rough idea?
Yeah, we do have to kind of piece that together, and that's going to be based on the environmental conditions that they're in, any information that we can gather from neighbors or family last spoken to the person. We can kind of narrow that down. If there's mail in the mailbox, we can kind of judge by that. If it's in a residence, then we can maybe consider dates on a bottle of milk or some kind of perishable item that can kind of guide you. The medical examiner is who makes the ultimate call on a postmortem interval, which is the time after death. But I think the longest that I've ever had has been about a month. And it was the other picture that I think I sent you of in the Tyvek suit.
Yep.
Yeah, that one was a long one.
So what's the normal time frame for doing the investigation when you go into a situation like that? Do you guys have a time clock that you're on because of collection of evidence?
No, we're not. We don't have to be in and out within a certain amount of time, but generally a death investigation is going to be for us. The detectives usually have a little bit longer time investigating the case, maybe not necessarily on scene, but investigating the whole case. But us on scene is going to be anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. It just depends on the circumstances, how much evidence there is to collect, the size of the residence. We take a lot of photographs. We will photograph the entire home. So that can range from 200 to 300 photographs pretty easily for one scene.
So, we just went through this election, and we didn't get a victorious vote towards the police. I'm not going to put you in position on that, but I do want to address a couple things because I think they're important for the citizens to know. when you collect it, when you're collecting the evidence, what's the protocol and how long do we have to keep it?
So yes, depending on the type of case it is, there's statutes of limitations ranging from, I think, like 6 months. This is a property and evidence question. I don't know all the laws,
Right.
but it could be anywhere from like 6 months to 99 years for homicide. So violent crimes are going to be longer periods of time. So we do have to keep a lot of various types of evidence for a long time.
And we have to keep them where? In a secure space, right?
In a secure, air-conditioned space, yes, to maintain its integrity.
So if you're keeping, I laugh about this because our police station is not that big.
No, we've outgrown it for sure.
Yeah. So what are we doing to it? I know that we're putting our police officers and detectives in closets, which is not the ideal work place, but you guys are adapting to everything. How do you adapt in the crime scene with the evidence and so forth? Because I would think that your space is limited too.
Yes, our space is limited. So right now I'm sitting in our processing lab. I don't know if you can see the different chambers here behind me. Everything is pretty much crammed into this one whole side of the wall. And then we have a small office next door to me here, which is our dark room where we can use a forensic light source because there's no windows in that room and it can get very dark. Unfortunately, it also has to share space with our drying cabinet, which our drying cabinet is technically like a biohazard because we put bloody items in that cabinet to dry. So that's not ideal in there. And it's a small room and we have a lot of equipment in there as well.
And so it's got to be tight, right?
Yes. And we recently had to reconfigure our desks to accommodate 4 people because there's never been 4 people in the office space before. So that's also, we're maxed out on that part for having 4 people in there.
That's and I like going over this because I don't think a lot of people understand what's in that building and how it has to be stored and preserved.
Yeah.
When you're preserving all of this evidence, it's critical that it stays in the right spots, one, but you can't have it damage other evidence either. How do you guys safeguard against that?
So again, that we have 2 property and evidence technicians, and that's their prime responsibility is maintaining the integrity of the evidence that's collected. We kind of share space in here. So their storage rooms are also in the perimeter of our office space. We don't have access to any of those rooms. They are locked and secured. But just being around and hearing conversations, I know that they've had to move a lot of things around, and they are also not in ideal locations just for the sake of having to put it somewhere. Our vaults where we keep all of our guns, drugs, jewelry, money, all that high liability stuff, that room is pretty much maxed out.
Wow. The total in-depthness of what you guys do, how critical is that for the citizens of Northport to count on you guys in the time that I think we count on you in the time of need at that point, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the integrity of any piece of evidence is extremely important if that case ever goes to court or when it goes to court, and that piece of evidence has to be brought in and presented. If it's, compromised in any way, or if it has a need to be analyzed for DNA in the future and it was compromised due to storage and temperature, we may not get DNA results that maybe we could have if it was stored correctly. So yeah, it's a huge burden and it is very important.
So what's your favorite aspect? And this is the hard part. What's your favorite aspect of your job? You've been there 11 years. You don't stay in a job and smile and be happy about it like you do if there isn't something that you enjoy about it.
I guess probably the day-to-day answer would be that it's always different. We never have the same day twice. Every scene is going to be different. As a whole in the job, and the rewarding part of it is being a part of, I'll use an example of our double homicide from a couple years ago. It went to trial in November last year, and I was the first crime scene tech on scene that night, and then I got to testify in the trial. And I also got to be in the courtroom when the defendant, Dima Tower, was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences.
Wow.
So in that moment, it all kind of came full circle for me. So that's the most rewarding part of the job.
So do you guys ever have to testify?
We do. Yep.
What? How intense is that?
It's pretty intense. We are usually on the stand for, if it's a homicide trial, which is majority of the cases that we end up testifying to. We're usually on the stand at minimum 2 hours, 2, 3, 4 hours at a time.
That seems to me to be pretty intense.
It is.
Is it? Well, you'd be attacked at that point, right? On the stand?
Yeah, during cross-examination, the defense would obviously try to ask questions or point out anything that we may have done wrong in our processes to compromise our integrity on the stand and maybe get the jury to sway. But that's why we are so methodical in what we do, and we try to do our jobs to the best of our abilities all the time.
So I lost you for a second. Sorry about that. I'm back. So I didn't catch the tail end of that, but the reason I was asking is that I think it goes kind of full circle to the environment that we store our stuff in, the integrity of what you're doing, but also the collection of it. So you've kind of got this, you say processes, but you would collect it out on the crime scene, goes into the unit itself, and then transported to the facility, and then you store it, right?
Yes.
So if those two things are kind of off balance, does that hurt you guys?
Yes, it could, and that's where the term chain of custody comes in, and having to maintain that at all times for any piece of evidence. So anybody that has their hands on a piece of evidence, it needs to be documented somewhere, and there should be a reason of why that person had it and what they were doing with it. So our computer system has an electronic chain of custody, which is good. We also have a written chain of custody for when we're collecting it on scene. We do that. We do a handwritten property receipt. So there's always some kind of paper trail for everything that we collect.
So that data that you're keeping, the evidence, the data, and do we keep any of that? Do we process that over to digital?
Yes, it gets scanned in digitally for the paperwork, but then once we enter it into our computer system, then it's all an electronic chain of custody.
All right, so we save somewhat on storage.
Yes.
Back in the day, there were file cabinets. Now there's not.
Yes, yeah. Our records department scans the paperwork in digitally. Yeah.
What do you do when you find the bigger pieces like cars and things that are like that into evidence? How does that affect you guys?
That's also a big deal. Fortunately, we haven't had, not that I can think of right off the top of my head, huge items brought in recently. Of course, we get cars very often, but we have an impound lot for that. So that's where those vehicles are stored. Anything large, the property and evidence has a bulk storage area that they use. But again, it's running out of space.
It seems like that's the trend right now. I think I don't think you guys are by yourselves in that. When it comes right down to it, I think as a city, we've grown so much so quickly. I don't think our own infrastructure to support our growth, just for protecting and securing the city, has grown with it. We're trying to, but I think everything is kind of like lagging behind.
Yeah, it does feel that way. It just because the growth went so fast, and just seems that we weren't quite prepared for it to go as fast as it did. I mean, it's exciting. I've lived here for 25 years, so I've seen huge changes in the city itself. So
where did you come from? So 25 years. I was about 25 years for myself.
I was born and raised in Sarasota.
Okay.
But I've been in Northport for 25 years.
Wow. All right. So you've seen Northport do a lot of different things in 25 years.
Yes, certainly have.
How in 25 years, how much has that changed? Because I know I just had this conversation today. I remember when Dixie and Publix and Wendy's and those were our primaries.
Yep.
For everyone, unless you drove down to Port Charlotte. So you look at it probably a little different. I'm using those things, but you could probably talk about like the lone 2 or 3 stoplights we had, let alone, what we have today.
Yeah, for sure. I think the first things that come to mind is the intersection of Sumter and Price and the intersection of Toledo, Glade, and Price being stop signs, 2-way and 4-way. I think one of them was a 2-way and one of them was a 4-way stop, but just crazy how the city has blown up.
We've gone through some transitions too, even at the school. So like resource officers are different now than what they were. You guys, what do you do to connect with the school to highlight career into crime scene?
We're often asked and invited to the schools to talk. We've done that several times. And again, it's usually the higher education that requests it because of the kids that are interested in, getting ready to go to college or start applying to colleges and things like that. And if that's really what they want to do.
It's there's a lot of things out there in the college world that people take that are geared towards higher ended career. So I don't want to diminish what you're doing at all, because it's essential. But what is the elevations within the crime unit? Because everybody wants to escalate their career. So can you talk about how you started, where you started, and the progression up the chain?
Sure. So a lot of the agencies have various arrangements for their crime scene units. So counties or other larger cities might have more movement and options. But here in our unit, there's a crime scene tech 1 position and then a crime scene tech 2 position. We currently have a sworn sergeant as our supervisor.
Okay.
So for me, I'm currently at the highest level that I can be at here.
Okay.
We also hopefully with growth in the next, I don't know, it'll probably be several years now, but I hope to maybe have AFIS here, which is an automated fingerprint identification system ability to be able to analyze our fingerprints here in-house, and or have a NIBIN system, which is the National Integrated Ballistics Network. So we can analyze our own casings that we collect on scenes. For what we do now, we have to send our fingerprints to the sheriff's office to be analyzed. So there's a little bit of a time delay in that. For any of our firearms and biology analysis, that has to go to FDLE in Tampa. So again, another wait for lab results. So hopefully I would like to have some kind of specialty stuff here. It's expensive to have that kind of stuff, but I think it could also be beneficial to investigations to be able to have faster results with our evidence analysis.
It's interesting because you've got to go through a process where you're at. You've got all the evidence gathering. You've got your career movement up. You've got kind of got a ceiling on it. If you were to shift and go into another area of growth, if you wanted to do that, is talking to maybe somebody who comes on board, gets on in as a one, and then finds out they like it a lot. What would be their encouragement to come in and then jet off?
Jet off as far as
their potential into another career within the organization.
Unfortunately, coming in as a crime scene tech here, you are a crime scene tech. And until we can maybe get those specialized things here, such as AFIS or NIBIN, we basically are just going to be responding to scenes.
Okay.
We do have advanced training in different topics. So like shooting reconstruction, blood stain pattern analysis, there's different certifications for those. So there's always those things to work towards as a crime scene technician. There's a lot of things that a crime scene tech can do without having to maybe advance in levels of like advancement in the career here, if that makes sense.
Yep, it does. It does. So Elaine Emmerich has a question. What happens if you all run out of space for evidence?
I wish I could answer that.
Wait a minute. You can't just do that. What was that, Elizabeth? You went.
That would be up to people higher than me to make a determination of how some other source to store evidence. And I believe they're looking at that now. We're looking for options currently, because it has to be in a secure location. It has to be air conditioned. It has to be large enough. So there's a lot that would go into that. I personally am not involved in that area of the issues here in the building, unfortunately.
Well, Elaine, she's going to dive deep into this. So she wants to know how bad is it. We talked about that earlier, but you talked about moving your desk around to accommodate. So you're accommodating staff and evidence all in the same spot. But how bad, if you had to describe it, how bad really is the situation right now?
It's bad. The last time I went into the vault, because again, we crime scene technicians don't have access to any of the evidence storage locations without a property and evidence technician. They're the custodians of everything. So the last time I went into the vault, every shelf was full. I think we have 2 metal shelves on the bottom that are for 2026 handguns. That's about it. So long guns, if we get a bunch of long guns, I have no idea what they're going to do with those. If we have another large drug case, drug seizure. Again, I don't know where they're going to put it.
So we have done a good job with let's talk about the drugs for a minute, because usually when you do a bust on drugs, there are guns involved, in most cases. But how are drugs handled? Because do they stay here, or do we coordinate with somebody else to get them out of our vault, or do we maintain that here?
They stay here.
Wow. So that can take up a lot of space too, if it's,
Yeah, depending on how the case goes, at some point later, like it could be years down the road, but if the state attorney's office approves the destruction of the drugs, then they can be destroyed. But it's not up until that point that we can do anything with it. It has to stay here.
Wow. So you've got like no choice but to go to a crime scene and bring it back home. And then you've got two people inside the vault that have to organize it, not contaminate it, keep it registered,
yep,
and keep track of where it is in a tight space.
Yes, at all times.
At all times. I hope I described that in depth, because it didn't even sound like it was going to come out right when I was saying it, but it didn't used to be that way. She also says, can evidence loss cause the police department a case in court?
Absolutely, it could.
Has that ever happened for us?
Not that I can think of right off the top of my head.
Knocking on wood.
Yeah, for sure. But yes, it is one of the top important things of our job, is the evidence collection. So if we're testifying to it in court, we have to testify to the exact collection method, the exact chain of custody of it. If it ends up having to be processed here in our lab, whether for DNA or fingerprints, we have to explain that whole process. As far as from the property and evidence standpoint of it, they are responsible 100% of the time for the exact location of the items, the integrity of the items. If a bag becomes ripped or tape is compromised, they have to deal with that. They have to fix it and maintain the integrity. So again, the environment in which the evidence is stored is extremely important.
Man, it just seems like there's almost an exhausted system, and I know chief and deputy chief, I know how they operate. They cannot be happy with the situation you guys have. They've got to be trying to fix that, because yes, to me, your job is just as important as controlling the streets, because if we don't do the evidence collection right, people come back to our streets.
Yes,
and that can be a real problem. So the evidence you guys are collecting, the majority of it has to stay. Let's use that 99-year method.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage stays 99 years? Is there a larger percentage that stays that long, or?
So 99 years is typically homicide cases.
Okay.
So, I mean, however long the city's been here and the PD's been here, there's potentially evidence that is from 20, 30, 40 years ago if there was a homicide.
Wow. So when the evidence is done, is there a process to get rid of it?
There is. The property and evidence technicians have a whole process that they go through. It's I'm sorry, I'm not well versed in this part of it, but I know that there is a paperwork process that they have to go through. It has to be approved by the state attorney's office, the case agent, whoever's working the case here. They have a double check system on it. And then I believe our sergeant has to also approve it. So yeah, it's a whole process.
So gosh, how big is our unit that we take out? I think I've seen it, the crime unit itself.
Our vans, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 2 Ford Transit vans that are marked with the crime scene unit decals and things. So I'm sure everybody sees them traveling around town.
Yep, I do. Elaine, again, are you concerned about losing funds through the property tax reform?
I am concerned with the possible repercussions to city functions. Yes, absolutely.
I thought there were no repercussions. You get your money back and you don't have to pay for services. You're good.
Yeah, you got it. You're going to pay for it somewhere.
You know, that is the most relaxed giggle about that I've heard, because I just heard it today, and one of my friends said it. He's like, I don't think people are really paying attention to what they're saying. And,
I don't think so either.
And I like the tax refund. I do. My concern is, where am I going to pay for it at? And there are people in our city that count on that control. That's a controlled tax. If you bring it back and you implement it in, it can be a tax that's handled differently, which means the people that's actually trying to help hurts the worst because it limits them. Is that you see? I see you shaking your head a little bit. Do you see it that way too?
Yeah, I'm concerned with the city overall. I know police and fire, I hope, aren't going to feel a whole lot of the effects of it, because our police services and fire services are extremely important. I'm concerned with the city as a whole. I love being outside. I love our city. I love our parks. I like to drive down the road and see things being maintained. So yeah, it's a little scary to think how it's going to affect it.
You know, I've got a lot of the younger generation. One just popped on there, Josh Wilson. He's a trainer up in Sarasota, amazing trainer. And Brandon McHale is part of the unit that you service with, I'm sure. And you're shaking your head again, so you know who I'm talking about. But we actually have some youth coming in over the years now that you've been there from the high school. We've got different aspects, different careers, different things like that. But do you see that kind of growth being good for our community? How we've kind of drawn in the youth to I think, solidify the connection back to the community?
Yeah, definitely. I think having the different younger viewpoints is important. Bringing fresh new ideas and things. I don't know if that's going to affect the ultimate end goal of the city and services and things.
Well, no, I don't think it's going to end it, but I think what you've said, which was the collection and the younger generation really wanted to get into it. I don't know that they want to be on the street, but this gives somebody else a different opportunity to get involved, and whether they stay long term, they can elevate somewhere else. And hopefully, as we grow, we can do that here. But I want to point something out. You called them blue points. What's a blue point?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What's a blue point? You said that about the police officers. You said blue point?
I don't think so.
All right. I maybe I misunderstood. When you were talking about the police officers coming in, I thought you had referenced something. Maybe I misunderstood, but that's okay. So you've got a lot going on there. What is it that you want the citizens to tell you that you need as far as driving the focus of this community engagement now, so that they understand from your perspective where you're at, what your definite need is?
From my viewpoint, from the crime scene unit and working with property and evidence, I think it's really important to understand the growth that we're having, the amount of evidence that we have, and the importance of maintaining its integrity. I don't know what the right answer is as far as where to put the evidence or anything like that, but it's an important topic that needs to be considered. And however that needs to move forward, we're running out of time because a couple more big cases, and I really don't know. I don't know what property and evidence is going to do with everything.
There's got to be chatters going on how to adapt at this point, but you just can't throw evidence into a storage unit and mark it.
No.
And you can't go to extra storage space and say, let me rent that storage unit over there. It's air conditioned. Let me put it in there and put a padlock on it.
No, it definitely needs to be a secure location. So it can't be just off of I-75 in Toledo Blade and a storage unit somewhere. There's got to be security.
I think that's the missed point to a lot of the conversations out in the community. It's just not policing. There's so much more to policing in that building. You guys are policing extremely well. You're doing detective work extremely well. Those are space takers, but you have to take the majority of the space at this point in that building. I would love to find out how many square feet are in the building and how much is evidence right now, because it seems to me like there's an imbalance.
Yes, I'm sorry. I wish I had those numbers for you.
They can't be good. They have to be. The scale has to be tilted somewhere.
Yeah, because there's different. So, I guess also to understand the proper storage of the evidence is anything that's biohazard has to be contained within itself. It can't be intermingled with other evidence. So that's kind of, an issue, because that's got to be one storage space. And then there's the high density room. So that's just general storage evidence. And then they have the high liability evidence, which is the drugs, guns, money, jewelry. That's all secured in a vault. So there's different dynamics to the location of the types of evidence as well. It's not just all thrown into one room.
Say that again.
It's not all just thrown into one room.
Oh, wow. So you're how many floors?
Well, currently we just take up this one first floor side of the west side of the building is property and evidence.
That's property and evidence. If that had to be done the right way with your unit involved, because you say just across the hallway, you had to turn your desks to get 4 people in that space. So talk about your space for a minute, because we already know we're running out of room in that space. What's your space like? If you had to jockey 4 desks in that room so you could walk in, are you walking in comfortable, or are you walking in sideways?
No, we could walk in comfortably. But again, the problem is that in our office, the whole perimeter of the space are doors going into the property and evidence rooms. So they're always, having to come in and out as well, in and out of our office to go into their evidence rooms. So the whole setup is a little backwards.
And we're kind of losing efficiencies, I would think, somewhere along the way. And
Yes.
it's going to be a point where somewhere it's going to be a big case and something's going to happen, because you just can't keep gambling without losing. And right now we are gambling and we're winning, but when is that magic moment? Because it seems like it's coming to crossroads.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real concern. It could happen, absolutely.
And to lose the big case, that hours and hours of work would have gone in, just collecting data, let alone all the police activity, and I just can't imagine how you could document the loss of time over that, and it's all because we didn't have the space and proper care. I hate the fact that we're talking about this, because it seems to me that everything that you guys are about is protection, and the one thing you're assigned to do in your position is the protection of the crime scene, and the two gatekeepers of the vault. Their job is to protect the professional keeping of the evidence.
Yes.
So that they maintain proper chain of command and they can be trusted in court.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. It just, I hope we can get some citizens to listen. We talk about this a lot. You've got to have the weapons out on the street to keep everybody safe. And we do. Chris Morales has educated me very well on all that stuff, and talks about how great things are going and the advancements in technology. Well, that's helped you somewhat, but it doesn't help as much as one would think when you're talking about the data collection is one thing, but the total collection of evidence, it doesn't shrink.
No.
So when you think about compressing evidence, well, your files are not file cabinets anymore. So you compress those. That's all good. And I'm positive you're safeguarded with security systems beyond recognition for keeping those safe, sound, and secure. But with the evidence side of it, that's got to be the hardest part, because it's the biggest things that you're talking about.
That's very true. Yes, it is. It's the biggest things. It's some of the most important things. But it seems to be the kind of push to the bottom of the priority list. Okay,
well, I don't know if I want to agree with you. Educate me on that, because I don't think it might be pushed down from your perspective, but I think they're trying to address it, and so I don't think they were.
I don't mean our admin. I know they're working.
All right, good. Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, I think it's just maybe the misconception from the citizens and not really knowing what it's like. Yeah.
Yeah. So I that's what, when you said it, I kind of knew where you were going, but I didn't know if you felt that way. That's why I love the fact that you clarified, because every once in a while you have to step back and kind of correct a little thing like that. But a citizen out there that could take that and say, they're not talking about it. Well, you have been talking about it. This has not been quiet at all.
No, and it's not new.
It's not new.
It's been going for a few years now.
How many years do you think it's been being asked?
I would.
Are we at 4 or 5?
Yeah, at least. I know at least 3 years, very, very diligently. But yeah, could be more.
We have one of the finest police departments up and down the coast, maybe in the state. Great job doing a whole lot with a whole lot less. I know our shortings out on the street, our shortages. I know the shortage in the building, just the building. I know the shortage in the crime scene unit. I know the shortage in the evidence room, the vault. There's no quick fix for any of those things. You can't take the evidence out of that building.
No.
And so if you don't build a building, you have to take the building away from where you're at, maybe build another police department somewhere and just make that building all evidence. But how secure would that work?
I don't, yeah, again, I don't.
Bigger
I don't
strategic minds, maybe?
I don't know what the right answer is going to be or what the popular vote is going to get.
I'm glad you said it like that, because I think we have to talk about this a lot more and a lot louder, because I think that people vote because they see expenditure.
Mm-hmm.
I say it all the time, there's a cost to everything. But if we were to borrow money, if they listen and they let you borrow money, it costs less and it's paid for over time. And the taxpayers that are here don't necessarily have to flip the bill for everything. They can let everybody else pay down the road. And that's, I don't want to take the guardrails off of borrowing, but I also don't want to hamper you with no tools, because the more that we constrict the crime unit, the less we're giving you proper tooling to do your job. And I think that affects the safety of the city, because it puts us in harm's way with lawsuits. There's just stuff. The police officers out there working on the street who find it just, that chain of command, instantly all that gets drug in. And I think that the fact that we carry ourselves at the police department like we do, I think they are concerned with that in depth. I agree with you in the fact that we need to get the citizens on board to listen, and not just they're spending $100 million. We weren't spending just $100 million. There's a little bit more than that, as a joke. But you take that for what it's worth, and then you analyze the building. No one's analyzing the building and the structure and why it's there. There's a lot more reasons than police officers and detectives and office space. So I feel bad for you in the sense that we're restricting, as citizens, we're restricting what we should be providing, which is better space, better tooling to keep us safe. I think that's the message back out. You taught me a lot today. I appreciate the fact that you came on, and I hope it wasn't too tense for you.
No, it was good.
Was it as mellow as what I prepared you for?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So this is, we talked a little bit, but we didn't have a lengthy conversation. It was basically just to tell Elizabeth that it was a back and forth around a glass of wine, maybe. But what was that favorite drink of yours?
It was wine.
Wine. There you go. So there's no whining on the show today. That's good. But, I appreciate everything that you're doing. Is there any people you want to give some shout outs on your team before we leave?
Sure. My coworkers, Casey Howe and Samantha Keelan, they're both off today, but yeah, they're awesome. Casey's been here 3 years. Samantha will be here 1 year in August, and we're a great team. We've meshed really well together, and we love working together. Fantastic.
Well, Elizabeth, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you being part of the live stream, and I'm proud to have learned from you today.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Real Talk, we'll be back next Monday, and it's Fire Department Day. Can't wait to see who's coming on. So we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye now. Oh, by the way, Elaine Embridge says you rock, Elizabeth.